There's Steven. It's like waiting for the internet connections that bind us to finally bind. Oh, there's Jeremy. Bonjour, Jeremy. Ronan, bonjour or bonsoir, where you are. All our poor love friends coming in. 23 Axolotls here too. Hola, how's it going? From this rainy day in Las Vegas. We're gonna do some Bulang, you guys. We're gonna do some really, really good tea. I think I'm ready to start. How are you guys today? Nazim from Tea Thoughts is here. Yasir 6752. Tea Blossom is here too. Ree's here from Tea Curious, right here. And we're gonna get started on today's pour practice, which is Bulang. Hey! So Bulang, you know, you Pu'er folks might know already where Bulang is. Bulang's one of those really famous Pu'er regions. Bulang, Linsang, Iwu, Nanwo, Mengku, those are all just, you might have heard these names on cakes, have heard these names on teas. They're places in Yunnan, and Yunnan's a big place. So even if they're all from Yunnan province, Pu'ers from different places will have different flavors, different vibes, okay? And while the place where the pu'er comes from isn't the only thing we need to look at, you'll notice some trends over time that indeed tell us that, yeah, it does matter where your pu'er comes from. It does matter because each little part of Yunnan is a little bit different. Different, you know, cultural, like, connotations, different, even ethnic minorities that are processing pu'er in slightly different ways. So, yeah, I've never been to Bulang, I've never been to Yunnan, but we can get to know that place today through our little pu'er tasting, a sheng to start with, and then a shou from Bulang afterwards. Think we can do this? I think we can. Mizayan 2 is here, Dr. Felix is here. How's it going, you guys? And Tanya Landia. Welcome to pu'er practice today. As always, let me know what you guys are drinking right now. I hope it's pu'er. It's the only excuse you got. Pu'er love means you gotta have pu'er in your cup today. You guys ready? Yeah, I'm ready. So we will start with this lovely guy. This is the 2009 Chiaomu Bulang from Crimson Lotus Tea. If you, you know, might want to guess who's coming on for tomorrow's Pu'er Love interview. So 2009 sheng from Bulang. The word Chiaomu, Qiaomu, refers to, you know, trees that are, they're bigger than bushes, but they're not super, super old. So pretty good material, but it's not like astronomical, out of this world, expensive either. It's not that expensive, not too expensive, but pretty good stuff from what I understand. To put in context, the Pu'er Love Challenge, you might have heard this a couple times already. For those of you who haven't joined the challenge yet, it was because we were inspired by some folks in Discord who were like, wow, you guys do a lot of tea, but you don't do a lot of pu'er. And I'm like, wow, that's my bias showing through. You're kind of affected by the people you're with. There's that idea that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And we've been spending a lot of time together, you know? At least once an hour for the last couple weeks. So if I'm not drinking that much pu'er, could it be my fault that we're not drinking that much pu'er on the Discord? Probably. So I identified that bias in myself. I know I've always been a little bit pu'er shy. I've always liked pu'er, but it wasn't really my favorite. But honestly, over the last couple, you know, last week or so, today's day 7 of the Pu'er Love Challenge, I've been digging. So I think it's working, you guys. Sometimes we just gravitate to the teas that we know the most, the teas we're most familiar with. And when you give yourself a chance to just kind of break out of that for a tiny bit, seems like you could even like teas that are not your go-tos, you know? So we preheated all our stuff over here. Gonna give that a semi-quick rinse. I'm not gonna throw away the rinse. I'm just gonna drink that guy. I like to drink the rinse, as some of you have already seen in our pu'er practice over the last couple. Just to know what this tea's like, get a preview. I think someone said it's kind of like the movie trailer for the tea. I want to know what it's gonna be like. Yeah. Okay. Then by the time I look up, y'all better have some pu'ers that you've been drinking today, or else. I'm like, Nazina knows not drinking pu'er. Ronan is gonna try to find a bulang to match. And Jeremy from TJ9 has wet stored bulang in the Gaiwan. Interesting. That's funny that I actually went for the pot today because I was trying to, you know, be inspired by Glenn, whose tea this is. Again, this is a Crimson Lotus tea. Glenn is the owner of Crimson Lotus, and he'll be joining us tomorrow for an interview about Yunnan regions and blending. We're going to be drinking one of his cakes tomorrow, but this is a tea I've gotten from him. 2009 Chiamu Sheng. I don't even know if they have it on the website anymore because it's been a long time since I bought this tea. And yeah, I was kind of inspired to set up my tea table a little bit more like him, with the fairness cups and the small cups and my little teapot, who I think none of you guys have even met before because I kind of like, I'm not like a big teapot person anymore, but he is my favorite. Yeah, this is a penchant. He's a Flegel. This was given to me by a friend, Cinnabar or Virginia Wright from Phoenix Tea Shop in Seattle. And he's handmade by a children's author. And look what he does, guys. Look what he does. Oh, please. I hope he does it. He does handstands! He's so cute. Yeah. So he's really cute. He begs for tea. So yeah, we're just inspired by Glenn today to set up our tea table. So he can have some tea. This is your guys' cup and spirit. The one that my teapot has. It's been such a long time since I've used tiny cups to pour into. It's crazy. I started, you know, doing gong fu this way, but then now I have graduated a little bit to like larger cups, larger pots, not using the fairness pitcher, but it's kind of nice to go back and review stuff that you've done in the past. Just a different feel. It's kind of more fun. Having all these little steps with the chahai and the teapot and the everything, it's fun. It's lighthearted. I like it. All right. First, cupperonis. We're going to share that with Rachel from Raw Rager and Joel Yoga and Joe from Fish Anywhere. Same with Minalarok and Zaihong. It's so late over there. Thanks for staying up and stuff for us. Yeah, cheers to my Europe friends. Thank you for staying up for us over here in North America. God knows I've failed to wake up early enough to catch your guys' live streams. I'm trying really hard. But my dog's really fluffy in the morning, and she's, you know, yeah. So welcome. We're having, wow. Ooh, holy crap, that's a really good pu'er. Wow. We're having a 2009 Bulang Chiamu. So Chiamu is a type of, Chiamu is like from what I understand, the tree version of the tea bush that isn't quite gushu yet, or old tree. So just because it's tall doesn't mean it's old tree. I'm not sure if Chiamu is the same as dashu, which is just tall tree. But from what I understand, this Chiamu material is made from trees that are, you know, have a respectable height and age, but they're not bushes. So in pu'er, in Yunnan, there's a big difference between the pu'er made from little tiny bushes, which they call like taida, like big plantations, and then the taller trees that kind of hang out, but they're not super old, and then older trees, which, depending on who you ask, are supposed to be at least 100 or 300. Some people say 800 years old. I haven't found the exact answer for that yet, and I think the answer is that no one can agree on what it means to be old tree. So as long as we're aware of these kinds of gray areas, I think it's okay. We can continue on and not try to agonize about it too much. But yeah, this is really delicious. This is a 11-year-old shang pu'er now, so it's gotten to that kind of like smooth and more fruity, less astringent, less bitey point. But why I don't like bulang as much is because I tend to be a little bit, you know, of I can be a little girl about it sometimes. I've been a little girl, so I can call myself a little girl, right? I am not the biggest fan of the bite of bulang tea. And bulang tends to have more of that kind of like grassy, herbaceous, kind of bitey astringency at the very beginning. But this is why a lot of bulang also tends to be kept for aging, because it's seen as being potent material. It's good for aging later on. But I don't set out to age pu'er when I buy it. I just drink for what I want it to be. So maybe it's just a matter of me trying to wait for my bulangs to tone out a little bit, because this is very tasty. We've been drinking some linsang this morning, and the linsang was very soft, very smooth, honestly more of my taste. But now I'm like, wow, there's so much structure in the tea because of that underlying bitterness. So it's interesting. I like it a lot, just from 2 sips. I know, I say a lot after 2 sips, but I'm like, once I sip it, the tea registers for me very quickly, at least in terms of the flavor. And then the aftertaste is there. Wow, there's a lot going on with this tea. There's a lot. That's good. That's good. Even from the tiny cups. Wow. Whew, I'm awake now. Goodness gracious. Amy is here from Le Bordelot. Ian, who inspired this whole shebang from Dottie-chan, is here. So Ian, thank you again for inspiring the Pu'er Love 2020 challenge. Pu'er friends, you can thank Ian for reminding me that pu'er is important to cover, even if it's not my personal favorite. And honestly, over the last couple days, I've had a couple, moments where I'm reaching for a pu'er, just personally speaking, and that's pretty new to me. So that's the power of being exposed to it and mindfully trying to branch out into teas you may not be as comfortable with. You'll get comfortable with them. Just give yourself some space, I think. And that's not to say I'm going to leave the oolong game forever. I think I'll always gravitate the most to oolong or white tea. I'm open to it changing. But yeah, we asked this question on Discord. How would you rate your feelings about pu'er from 1 to 10? I never answered that question, but I'm going to answer it right now. I think I would have said like a 5 or a 6. Which, it's not like I really like pu'er, but compared to how I feel about oolong or white tea, I'm just like, wow, or even green tea. But now I think I'm like a 7. I'm liking it a lot. It's like a 6 or 7. So it's a whole point difference. I like it 10% more than I did at the beginning, and we're only halfway through. So maybe we got some work to do still, right? So good job, you guys. So Jeremy says labels doesn't mean anything if the tea is not good. Let this tea speak for itself. I agree. I think this is important, especially for pu'er, where it's just tea with the most jargon, and these pieces of jargon are important if you want to decode the tea, but from the very beginning, the first things first is just the taste. And I like knowing what kind of materials in the tea. I like knowing what terroir it's from, just because I have been, not to Yunnan, but to many different tea regions, and so that's why I just love getting to know what the environment is like that made that tea, and how the leaf kind of interacts with how the taste is like in the cup. But I'm kind of there's like good things about it and bad things about it. I'm kind of like a handicap, I feel like, not having been to Yunnan before. So I don't understand fully like I do with like oolong or even like black tea, what goes into pu'er. But it's kind of nice. It's like a little bit of that beginner's mind we can use, at least for me. Yeah. So Cafe Nativa is here. How's it going, my friend? One Man's Tea Journey. Welcome to our pu'er practice today. One Man's Tea Journey. You're not a pu'er person either. Yeah, I'm not going to be afraid to admit that. I'm not that much into pu'er, as much as I am into oolong and white tea. But I'm finding myself falling in love with some of these pu'ers we have in our collection, and I'm very pleasantly surprised by how much I like this right now. I knew I'd like it. I'm just like, wow, I'm really digging. Ian giving me way too much credit. He says, that's the thing about tea, is that sometimes the very small conversations I have with people will net the most epiphanies for me. I've sat with extremely amazing tea people, and you'd think it's like, oh, you read their book, or they said something really profound to you that changed your tea life, and I'm like, it was like the everyday interactions with tea people of many different types and levels, if you want to call it that, and Ian, if we're not talking to each other, I wouldn't be studying pu'er right now. So I don't think it's giving you too much credit. If you didn't say that to me, I wouldn't have gone on this journey. And now you've got all of us, you know, dragging along on the pu'er sleigh. They're learning about pu'er. I think it's good. And then it's like a ripple effect. Whatever you study in terms of pu'er here will go on to all other parts of your tea practice. And yeah, tea's just like that. It's the small things that seem to count for me. So yeah. All right. The pot that I'm using today is a Taiwanese clay pot. It's like a factory made, kind of like, not that fancy of a clay pot. I left my pu'er pot at the tea shop where I teach at sometimes, Tea and Whisk here in Las Vegas. So that's why I'm using this pot today. It's pretty thin. It's not the most ideal for pu'er. It doesn't pour that fantastically, but it's okay. We use what we can, you know. Cheers in the second cup of this Bulang. Let me know what you guys are drinking today, and also any thoughts you got. What are your favorite tea regions in Yunnan? And even if you don't have a particular tea region you like yet, what kind of pu'ers do you find yourself gravitating to right now? And if you're not a big pu'er fan, which pu'ers have been okay enough that you enjoy them? I guess is a question we can think about. Rachel says probably helps that Ken isn't giving it to me as often as he can. So Ken is our local tea pu'er guy. We've joked about this. Every single tea circle has that pu'er person. It's a one person, you know. We found it's usually a guy, but we've met some pu'er girls here. Beth, who I think is also from Germany, is a pu'er girl, but it seems like there's a lot of pu'er dudes. And yeah, it's through Ken that I've gotten the most of my pu'er exposure over the last 2 years, because even if I could make pu'er for myself, I figure Ken will make some, so it's okay, no problem. You'd be surprised how much you influence the people around you with your tea practice and the teas you drink and the things you say. So that's why I'm very careful about the things I say in terms of like facts in tea. You know, even if I personally am 100% sure about what I know about the tea, I don't like showing it as a fact, because then later on, 3 years down the road, someone's going to come to me and say, hey Ree, you said that one time Bulang is always sharp. I'm like, no, I said sometimes it's sharp. Oh my goodness. You know, Ree, you lied to me. Bulang sometimes is really, really sweet. You know? Yeah, it's okay though. The more that you can expose yourself to like discussion, I think that kind of thing goes away. I say that because I used to be that person who I'd like read something online, you know, when I was first starting out, and I'd be like, oh wow, if a Taiwanese oolong is sweet, it means it's high mountain. So then I'm like, oh, I'm drinking high mountain right now. Even if I don't know what's on the label, it's high mountain, right? Because it's so sweet. It's natural to do that in the beginning. There's that, you know, knowledge curve where you start, and then once you know enough, you think you know everything, and then you know a little bit more, and you're like, okay, there's a little bit more to learn, and then after you get to a certain point, you're like, wow, I wish I could have another couple lifetimes to learn this stuff. And I hope that's where I am right now, because I'm like, holy crap, just staring into the void of tea knowledge is a little bit intimidating. There's so much to learn. Like even here at pu'er, I just like, wow, I've spent so much time on other teas, and now I'm like a beginner again. I know relatively little about pu'er for sure. So let's taste this second steep here. Even for being 11 years old, again, this is the 2009 Shanghai Bulang Chiaomu from Crimson Lotus Tea. Again, Glenn from Crimson Lotus will be joining us tomorrow, so I hope that you join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. PST. It's an hour later to account for some scheduling stuff. Glenn's a family man, so we decided we'd do it when his youngest Gary is sleeping, so we have some time together to talk about tea. So tomorrow we'll be talking to Glenn, who sourced this tea for us. We could even ask him what it's like in Bulang. I'm really excited. He goes there every single year to source with his wife Lamu, who's from there as well. And yeah, I mean, to you, not from Bulang. I don't think she's from Bulang. I think she's from, we'll ask him tomorrow. Yeah, but even for being 2009, even for being 11 years old. It's not what you would call like a deeply aged sheng pour yet, but it's getting there, right? It's a teenager, it's a preteen, okay? 2009, wow, my nephew wasn't even born yet when this was made. Actually, Steven wasn't even born yet when this was made. He's so young. 11 years old, what were you doing in 2009? In 2009, I was in my sophomore year of high school. Junior year of high school, and that was when I started getting really, really deeply into tea. I remember I would take a thermos of Earl Grey with me to school, okay? With like porcelain cups, and like I would pour Earl Grey from my thermos into the porcelain cups. I was so extra. I was really extra during high school. But that was just the tea love coming through, you know? Like, so I wanna respect high school level Ree. You know, she was deep into tea already. Ian, I think she is Tibetan. I just wanted to make sure because there's a lot of like, you know, lots of different ethnic minorities in Yunnan, and yeah, as someone who's Asian, I try to just ask first and make sure, because people have very, very rarely been able to pinpoint where I'm from. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they guess almost everything else except for Filipino. So I'm Filipino. No tea drinking history in us. We just drink tea when we're sick because the Spanish came and taught us how to drink coffee. So Ronan, I usually love Nanwo, she says, and Iwu. I like Nanwo and Iwu as well. I love sheng more, the young and nervous ones. Interesting. And Maocha. I do like Maocha as well. So Maocha is kind of like the unprocessed or not pressed into cakes yet tea. Maybe my Taiwan is leaking through, but when you say Maocha in Taiwan, it's like the tea has not been roasted yet, so it's not finished. I think in Yunnan, Maocha, the tea is already finished. All it's left to do is like to press into cakes. But as we learned during the time when we press a dragonwell cake, the pressing makes a big difference in the processing of the tea because it goes through one more steaming step. So humidity is introduced one more time, and then when you sun dry it, it seems to change the flavor of the tea. So I think your loose leaf pu'er and your pressed into cakes pu'er, even if it might seem like the only difference is the fact that it's loose versus pressed into cakes, there seems to be a difference. So I personally tend to like the loose leaf pu'ers the most. But I might change my mind. I'm really enjoying a lot of these kind of loose, cake pressed pu'ers I'm having over the last couple days. I'm very open to changing my opinions about things, which is helping a lot with this challenging kind of pu'er journey we're going through here. And then Ronan is also having a Bulang sheng right now. How old is it? I'm wondering. Robin from RB Ceramics, also a fan of Yiwu for the young shengs. I really like young Yiwu as well. Ian says the Bulang sheng I drank the other day was a heavy hitter. This is pretty heavy, I'd have to say. I'm only 2 steeps in, but I can feel it kind of creeping up. It's kind of a challenging tea. It's got a life of its own for sure. Yeah, wow. I did steep it pretty long. I'm not used to this pot. That's how you know I'm out of practice with this pot. I forgot how slow it pours out. Should have used my other one from Taiwan. But it's okay. It's okay. It's been so long since I've flash steeped things like this. It's kind of dribbly. So 3rd steep. I'm feeling pretty relaxed already. Some of you might have gotten my email I sent out this morning. The tea practice emails, if you haven't signed up for them, you can sign up for them on the link in my bio. It's kind of like once a week, sometimes twice a week, emails about some more theories and techniques for people who've been in tea for a little bit. You guys know already, I'm a big fan of the stuff that's kind of work in progress in tea. The stuff that we already know is pretty boring to me. I want to know how we can push the boundaries, how we can think and talk about theory and test techniques and kind of really dial in. So that email newsletter is what I send out to kind of share what I've been learning recently. And we talked about how I'm kind of different on the live streams depending on what I'm drinking. And it's true for any tea, but pu'er is so potent that I'm really... Before I go into the live stream, I will literally think about the tea. And I'm like, can I maintain the live stream when I drink this tea? Will I not derail myself when I drink this tea? And I actually think about it. Because if I drink a tea that just destroys me, I'm gonna have to end early, or I'm gonna say something stupid, or I'm just not gonna have I can't string words together. Right now I'm having difficulty stringing words together. Whew. Tea drunk already. It's only the third steep. This is a very potent pu'er. 11 years old. I think that a lot of sheng at this age already tends to smooth out a little bit. This still has that bite. It's still awake. It's still... Wow. Whew. Wow. Okay. That bitterness is coming out again. Wow. This tea has so much character. Jeez. So some teas are super friendly and you get to know them really, really well. This tea, it's still unfolding. Just a third steep. It's definitely got an opinion. It definitely has something to say. Yeah. It's definitely got something to say. It's not a tea you can sip while doing something else, I don't think. This is a tea that's demanding attention. So I'm glad I picked it for today's live stream. Sometimes there are teas you can drink while you watch The Office. And some teas you can drink while you're trying to play StarCraft. This is not one of those teas. Very demanding. Wow. I can feel it everywhere. I can feel it in my feet. I can feel it in my head. I can feel it in my shoulders. I can feel my hands. I wish you guys could touch my hands. You've seen me do this a couple of times during this pu'er challenge, but Steven will let you know. I'm not going to tell Steven how they feel. How do they feel, Steven?
Hot?
They're kind of hot, right? And like clammy. Like clammy, but they're like warm, hot, and kind of wet. Right? Whereas the other day, we had that pu'er and my hands were like cold. It's the same room, right? Same girl. Just different effects of the tea, which is really interesting. It's got some personality. Wow. Very challenging. I'm like chewing through the tea. You know how some tea websites will call their teas easy drinking or approachable? This is not approachable. This is very... Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad tea. I'm really enjoying working with this tea, but this is the tea you definitely have to kind of like... I asked the question too, does anyone do martial arts or has practiced martial arts in the past, you know? I feel like I'm almost doing push hands with this tea. I'm like working through like some forms with this tea. It's really doing some stuff. Very interesting. In terms of flavor profile, it's got that fruity sweetness. It's got a tiny bit of like, it's got a bite to it. It's definitely got a bite to it. Almost like you bit into some herbs or something like that. Like an herbal bitterness. It's got a really nice aftertaste and then a tiny bit of floral fragrance on the aftertaste too. A lot going on. Really interesting. Wow. If I had to assign like a persona to this tea, it's like you go to the library, you're just gonna pick up a book for like your little sister or something because it's not COVID yet, there's no quarantine yet. And you just want to pick up a DVD for your sister. So you're minding your own business and you run into this guy who's looking at a book that you really like. You're like, oh wow, I like that book too. What are your thoughts? And he's like, actually, I'm like a PhD at Berkeley about English literature. And if you turn to page 46, it says this passage right here. And the author actually designed the passage as an homage to his like late uncle who was an astronaut, and he's like going really deep and you're like, oh my god, I had no idea what I was asking when I asked you that question. That tea is just very deep, very intense. It's got a lot to say and you gotta be prepared to kind of deal with it. I know these are kind of weird metaphors, but I could just better can understand tea and how it's moving and interacting with me if I can put a face to it. This is more than just me being weird, okay? As humans, psychologically, we're able to understand things better when we can humanize them. That's why we're like, oh, my dog's my dog's guilty because she peed on the carpet. Oh, she's so guilty. And that's why we see faces and things that are not necessarily human, because as humans, we're biologically wired to try to understand things on a human level. That's why I like to assign these personalities and people in the teas. Not because I actually think there are people in the tea, okay? Like, I get it. It's just liquid. But that's kind of how this makes me feel. It's very interesting. And now I know how to apply this. It's not just theory, okay? If I have someone over, like my best friend Nicole, who sometimes pops onto these streams, she doesn't drink tea that much. She will drink it if I give it to her, but she's not going to reach for like a 2009 Bulang Chiamu, you know? But I will brew her really good tea just for the sake of talking. This is not a tea I can brew for her because it's so challenging. You can't conduct a conversation about anything else but this tea. Okay? Notice that in our other live sessions, we were talking about tea and dating, we were talking about, you know, whatever, right? Like some other BS. This tea wants us to talk about it. It's so demanding and it's really interesting. Wow. Ever had a tea like that? Just absolutely demanding tea. Like not messing around. Whew. Wow. Yeah. Sonia is here and Mindful Teas is here. Welcome. Sorry that you caught us in the middle of that. I shouldn't apologize. You just know what to expect when you pop into a Tea Curious live stream by now. We gotta explore the concept thoroughly. I really believe that very, very much, that the more time you can dedicate to patiently exploring a concept in tea, the better. We got time, you know? I've been doing this for like 10 years now, so we got some time. Might as well do it right. So Ronan is also having a Bulang. Hers is a little bit different. She says hers is very elegant, surprisingly, with fresh rose, muscat grapes kind of notes there. Very different from mine. I'm curious to know how old yours are. And peach also, okay. I don't think this tea is very like, it's more like a mental tea. I don't feel it so much in my digestive system. There are certainly some teas that kind of like, oh man, like, this is a very mental tea. Very mental tea. I can barely feel my body right now. It's all like up here. It's really interesting. You okay, Steven? Mm-hmm. Hanging in there? Okay. And just like I said in today's email, it's okay if you don't feel tea like this yet, or if you never do. There's just some people who don't, and that's fine. But I certainly do. I didn't start out feeling tea like this, and then once I started feeling it, I'm like, oh wow, okay. I better look at that too, you know. Gio from Jianji is here. Ciao, my friend. How's it going? It's super late there. Again, thank you for all of your friends. Cheers to you from our sunny... No, it's not sunny. Our bright and cloudy, again, Vegas afternoon. Thank you for joining us from across the pond. Ronan says, I have this martial feeling with dansong. Interesting. So, I love the feeling of that tea. It's like you have to deserve the trust of the tea, like it's testing you some way. I definitely agree with that. There are teas that will test you, and there are teas that are very, very friendly. We did that 2012 Wild Mountain White. I can't shut up about that tea. My favorite white tea. And it's very forgiving. And no matter what I do, even if my head's in the clouds or I'm anxious, having a bad time, I can drink that tea because it won't test me. But if you're just having a really bad day, if you're like anxious, if you failed a test, if someone broke up with you, if you just quarantined and you can't pay the bills, right? And just having a moment, which would you prefer? The tea that you know will test you, or the tea that you know will kind of give you a little bit of a break? There's no right answer there, actually, because if you just want to chill out, I'd just choose a friendly tea. But if you want all the shit to come out, you could maybe just use the challenging tea, because it'll probably make you even more emotional, but then maybe you'll get some stuff out. And trust me, I didn't think this way about tea in the beginning. I just wanted to drink some tea, and then just my journey has shown me that this kind of exists about tea, for sure. So in a nutshell, challenging tea. A tea that I just have to talk about. Which is good. I've been wanting to do a session with a tea lately that's a little bit more infusion based, like tracking the way it feels over time. So I'm going to prep the second tea that we have today. I don't want to rush these teas. I will just drink them later, but I do want to taste a little bit of the shou we also have. This is also a Bulang. This is a 2012. So very close in age. So 2012 Bulang, but this is a shou. So accelerated fermentation, cooked, whatever you want to call it. It's darker than the sheng. And this is from gushu material, old tree stuff. So I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit more gentle than the sheng pu'er. The shou pu'er tends to be a little bit more like, you know. But it is Bulang. So we'll see. I want to see how the Bulang kind of characteristic changes from this tea to that. And this tea is already fighting me. I feel like I shouldn't let this alone for a little bit. So I promise, we're just gonna test to see what the shou pu'er is like, to see if there's a difference in the way the bitterness manifests. And important note, just because something is bitter doesn't mean it's Bulang. And just because something is not bitter doesn't mean it's not Bulang. Tea is just so diverse. But I have a pretty good, blind test success rate with pu'er. Surprisingly, it's not 100%, it's not 90, it's not 80, but it's not bad. Yeah. It seems to be I can identify them. Just from what I've it's a flavor library. Just from what I've seen so far. The Bulang pu'ers, they tend to be pretty bitter. So if something comes up and it's this kind of bitter, this specific kind of round, well-developed bitterness, I do like to say it's Bulang. More often than not, it's pretty correct. There are actually nights where I've beaten Ken, our resident pu'er expert at Sing and Whisk. I've actually outscored him on some pu'er blind tasting nights. So Ken better watch out. Ken better watch out. I almost wonder if I'm just not thinking too much about the pu'ers when I blind taste them. For those of you who joined us during the oolong blind tasting, I might be thinking too much. It's sometimes if you know too much about the subject, you like almost overthink it, and then you're not able to make this very simple, decisive, that's what that is. Maybe that's why. Not that I know much about oolong, but I do know more about it than pu'er. And then you find me like failing the blind test for that. When you take a test and you're like, oh, I think it's A, but let me review my answer. Actually, maybe it's C. Should I change my answer? I always get it wrong if I change my answer. And then you change your answer, and then it's wrong. Alright, infusion 4 of this very potent 2011 Bulang. Did I lose you guys? No, I got you guys back. Welcome back. Neil is a base is here. Neil, welcome to the Pu'er Love Challenge. I saw that you posted your first post yesterday. And I saw that you used the Tea Curious water formula. How did that go? I read your notes, and it seemed like the water pulled out some nice complexity for you, so I hope that was a good thing. I haven't tested the pu'er. I haven't tested the Tea Curious water formula with a lot of pu'er, but hopefully it did well for you. We have a formula that we've developed here at Tea Curious for general use. We're in Las Vegas, our water's not that good. It's not as good as Gio's over in Italy, it's not as good as y'all's in Germany, and probably not as good as y'all's in France. But it's pretty good. I like it so far. So fourth infusion. That's not the fourth infusion. This is the fourth infusion. Fourth infusion. This is a little cup I have for you guys. A little here in spirit with us cup. And then my teapot can beg for tea over there. Wow, Steven, this tea is very bitter. But it's not drying. It's that interesting kind of full-bodied bitter. It's a very pleasant and challenging at the same time kind of bitterness. So don't confuse bitterness and dryness. This is not dry. I find it to be bitter, but not dry, which I'm enjoying quite a bit. There are not very many teas you find that are bitter, but not dry. So I really like that effect. Let's see. Who else is here with us? Alewitty Sands, welcome to our pour practice today. Amy says, I love how this pour challenge is bringing up so many deep conversations about tea. Yeah, we're digging deep. You know, the green tea drink down was more like this fun kind of like, it's about to be springtime, you gotta drink down your green teas. But pour just on its own is just a more intense tea. So I'm not surprised that we're going into these. And before we started it, I had a conversation with Steven, like, hey, are we gonna be able to have these live streams? I'm worried that the pour will like overtake me during the live stream and we're gonna go off into a million tangents. So to remedy that, I am being very careful about the pours that I pick so I don't zone out during the live stream. Let me tell you, I am definitely putting effort into focusing right now. Because if I just stop talking, I'm gonna float away to Mount Charleston over there. It's a heady tea. It's very heady. Ronan says she's floating because hers is strong too. Yeah, it's strong for me as well. Neil Zabay says that oh thank goodness, the Tea Curious water has been your default. I'm happy. That makes me really happy. It's our default. We love it. If there's something wrong with it, we do notice. I noticed that it needs a little bit of toning down. Like you need to soften it a little bit for green tea, but for everything else seems to be pretty good. Yeah. Team T is here, and Vidi Kundanjain, nice to see you. Isn't it really, really early there in India? Wow, everyone's just joining us from all sorts of time zones. I'm really grateful for that. We're here at a comfortable 1:30, 1:40, 1:50. Pour practice goes by quick, doesn't it? Yeah. Reminder again that tomorrow we will be joining Glenn from Crimson Lotus at 2 p.m. I'm really excited. Let's ask him all our wonderful questions about Yunnan terroir and blending tea. I'm going to ask you guys for your questions later on to combine with some of my own so we can have a nice kind of like well-ranging discussion. I really recommend that you think about some questions to ask this guy because, man, if you can get someone to sit down and have a conversation about tea with you, it's just priceless. Priceless for tea learning. Yeah. And Ian, you know, you're saying, oh, I just brought it up. You're giving me too much credit. You can't imagine how much I spent. I think it was 8 hours, Gio, in Turin or Torino, where you're based. They're the same place, but I don't want to call it Turin because they call it Torino. Why don't want to be American like that? I spent like 8 hours with them in Torino, and I felt like I came back to my real family after being adopted. Because we were talking about water, and they're like, oh yeah, we have this water that, you know, we use for tea, and then, you know, I think it's San Benedetto is the tea that, the water we like to use only for eating. You know, we won't use it for tea, it's too hard, but it's really wonderful after dinner. And I'm like, wow, my people, wow, because, you know, talking about water for tea has been a little bit easier over the last few years, but in the beginning, and even now, people are like, y'all crazy. What's the point? It's just water. So now I always kind of have that card in the back of my pocket. Like, you think I'm crazy? Go to Italy. Like they've got so many springs out there. They also deal with their water. They like mix Valmora half and half for certain teas and Valmora by itself for other teas. So thank you, Gio. Also, the life-changing gelato experiences are just, man, I don't think you guys know how much I talk about you guys, especially, not even just on live stream, but Steven's ears bleed whenever I talk about Italy. I just had such a good time there. Joe says, necessity is the mother of invention. Hooray for bad tap water. Gave us Tea Curious water. It's true, guys. I almost feel like we should do a tap water versus good water side by side again, because every single time people get surprised by how ugly the tea looks in tap water. You don't even have to taste it. It just looks terrible. cloudy and dark, and yeah. And it's true. If I was born in Italy or born in Seattle or born in, you know, the mountainsides of Germany, I probably wouldn't have developed this water for sure. So Neil, urban city life in the southwest of the United States life, I think you know what I'm talking about here. Our water sucks. Sucks. A lot. The tap water, not the Tea Curious water. The Tea Curious water is just, yeah, it's good. We actually tested it against a lot of different waters, and it came out on top for most of the tea types that we tested, so. Jay was asking, is this Bulang very mineral? The sheng, the one here, is very mineral. But there's a lot going on, so it's very mineral, but there's so many other things that it's quite balanced as a whole. This here that we're drinking right now really quick is also a Bulang, but it's a shou, okay? This shou is 2012, so it's 8 years old. Yeah, 8 years old. The other one's 11 years old, so pretty close, you know, not super close, but relatively close in age range. But it's shou, so it's been, you know, fermented, accelerated. It's meant to kind of taste more fermented and more mature than the sheng, and it's certainly quite sweet. But this is just the first steep. I'm sure it's going to develop a little bit more after this, so we will see. Brian Peace Love is here. Welcome to our pour practice today. Vanilla Obscura is here as well. And Shiloh from Nuev_knowledge _ Orden. Welcome, my friend. How's it going? Everyone else, and you guys who came in too, what teas are you drinking today? A couple of us are drinking Bulang, which is nice. I'm drinking some Bulang today too. The most challenging, I think, kind of region in Yunnan for me. So Banzang teas, I think, are in Bulang as well. Also very challenging. Some of the Laman teas are very challenging for me too. Yeah. Pushing some boundaries. I hope you guys are proud of me. I'm the kind of person who is really enjoying having lots of maple syrup over the last few days. I like sweet things. So this very intense kind of structured bitterness, it's a little bit of a deviation for me. Ooh, look at that color. That's how you know when shou is good. It's so dark, but it's still kind of clear. It's got that kind of shininess to it. It's tempting to say that shou is just all dark, but depending on the clarity, even if it's a super dark color, how translucent, how clear is the liquor? This looks very nice. It's so pretty. It just looks really, really nice. Okay. Second steep of the Bulang shou, also from Crimson Lotus. If something happens to me, like I keel over, Glenn will still be over at 2 p.m. PST tomorrow somehow. You can blame him. This is his tea from Crimson Lotus. There it is again. Like the bitter, like boop, starting. Easy drinking compared to the other one though, that's for sure. The other one, the sheng, is a lot more intense. This is actually very sweet. I like that it's sweet because it is old tree, and old tree pour tends to be sweeter than its like the regular counterparts. So gushu, Gushu, or old tree sheng, I find I like them a lot. They tend to be a little bit smoother, sweeter, a little bit easier to infuse. But the classic Bulang is coming through too. It's not too smooth. It's not too sweet. Sometimes when the pu'er is too sweet, so I'm looking for just a tiny bit of counterpoint. And this one definitely has that. I like that. I really like that. Tasty. Tasty, tasty. It's sweet. Am I... Am I too predictable? Sweet and smooth with a just tiny bit of bitterness to round it out. Vanilla Obscura is having a Phoenix Oolong. I like Phoenix Oolongs. This is the Pour Love Challenge 2020. Also the Oolong Envy 2020. Because I'm drinking very little Oolong these days. Need to focus on the pour. I really like Phoenixes though. Jeremy from TJ asked, ever tried a Mung Song pour? I think I have. I forget where. I don't think I have one at the moment, but now I wonder if I can't really pinpoint when I've had it, if it's just really tea drunk. Our poor friends at the shop here in Vegas, Tea and Whisk, where I don't work there. I teach there sometimes, so people kind of like, oh, when are you going back to Tea and Whisk? I'm like, I don't work there, so. But we will do, you know, pour blind practice, or they'll just pour some pour for me. I'm sure I've had a Mung Song. I remember that word kind of vaguely, but then maybe I remember it and then I blacked out, so I don't remember what happened after. Does it tend to be tea drunk? Where is Meng Song? Mung Song. Mengsong. Very different vibe. We got the thumbs up from Steven. He's got the face. What is that?
I like it.
Good night, Gio. Ciao. Thank you for joining us. Europe friends, thank you for joining us so late. I hope that the 2-hour kind of like pushback helps a little bit. Or push up. Very, very good. Very different tea. So we talked about the 2009 sheng as being very like intense. It wants you to talk about it. It's just very like rah, very intellectual, very smart, very demanding, you know? Just think about the most intelligent person you know and how friggin' demanding they are, because they just demand intellectual stimulation. I guess kind of like my dog. My dog's just way too smart for her own good. She tends to just demand a lot of intellectual stimulation. So that sheng is asking me to pay attention to it. This one's a little bit different. I'd say it's more comfortable. It's a little bit more friendly. It's very warming as well. This whole time my hands have been really, really, you know, quite warm, right? Unusual. Yeah, very warm, very warm. Very easy drinking. Do you see how fast we're drinking this? It's not even close. Wow, I like that. That's very tasty. I'm curious to see how the third infusion goes. It's hard to judge a pour, I think, by the first 2 infusions. It's still opening up. I did break the cake up a little bit because I want to get to the meat of the tea, pretty much. But yeah, it's just definitely more friendly than the other one. Not to say it's better or worse. I think personally, it's more of my style of tea, but I'm not saying it's better or worse than the other tea. They got their merits. Ooh, and then this, wow, gorgeous aftertaste at the end. Super coating, super full, like almost like oolong. How full that is. Holy crap, it's just all over. Very sweet, very cooling. Wow. That's cool. I like it. Good stuff. Let's see how this third infusion goes. Really beautiful color as well. Okay. And let's see. Magi Magnan is having a lot of sheng this week, changing up today with Sama White. Are you joining us for the Pour 2020 challenge? You can just, you know, go in retrospect and tell us what you drank over the week. Maybe you already done 7 out of 7, because that's a challenge. 7 out of 7 teas, at least, before April 15. So even if you haven't joined us yet, even if any of you haven't joined us yet, there's still quite a lot of time to the 7 pours before April 15. You have like a good, yeah, you got 8 more days. And then TJ over here is at like 15 pours already. And then Gabby, who just joined us, is also at like 14 or 15 pours. Y'all are crazy. Does anyone want to take bets as to how many pours Jeremy from TJ9 and Gabby will do? They're both at like 14 or 15 right now. And does
Jeremy had 16 today.
Oh wow. Okay. Does anyone want to take any bets who's going to have more by the end? You can DM me so we don't tell them. So yeah, that's going on Discord and also on Instagram. So Magi Magnon, if you do end up joining us, it's the hashtag PoorLove2020. Oh, trust me, I hate the word hashtag as much as anyone else, but it's how we find each other. So I'm at 2 out of 7. I haven't done a full session yet for a little bit. I'm not counting the ones I do on live because I want to count for myself what I do as a focus session. Well, I'll get there. I think this one I want to do a focus session with, and this one too. I want to do a focus session with all of them. They're just really, really, really interesting. Joe says, I found one non-pressed. Going to need to find one more to do the 7 because my YTT order won't be delivered in time. You can do one that's already done. Maybe do it in a different pot, or do it with different water, or do it with... just prepare it differently, you know? Don't ask me for like the challenge parameters. It's really up to you. Some of us are so much more ahead in Pour Love. Some of us are doing a little bit catch up like I am. So whatever you think will help you, just get to know it more. I've personally done so much learning over the last week. I don't think it's possible to explain how much. I like Pour a lot. Yeah, I think I'm very close to like loving it. We're just getting there. You know, we're getting there. These are both lovely. And then, over the next couple days, right, we've got our Pour Love interviews coming up with some incredible Pour folks. Tomorrow we will start with Glenn from Crimson Lotus Tea. Yay! So Crimson Lotus Tea is at Crimson Lotus Tea. Glenn and his wife have been sourcing tea since like 2013. At least that's when they first posted a blog. And I would love to ask them some questions about pour blending, because they're very much into blending pours, and about which regions in Yunnan they like the most. So think about it. What are some things that you'd love to ask someone who's actually experienced, you know, going out to look at the trees and looking at the environment and comparing different places? Like personally, I would like to ask, how does Jingmai feel different as a place from Nanwo? Or feel different as a place from Linsang or Bulang? Because in our heads, if you've never been there, some of us have, right? But for me, I've never been there. I want to attach what it feels like to the tea, because there must be something about Bulang that causes Bulang to be more kind of intense and more bitter and more packed with just stuff. Don't you want to know what that is? And don't be afraid to ask questions. Glenn is super open and super, you know, he's just great. And he's super down-to-earth guy who just likes pour. So I really, really respect that. And both of these teas we did today were from him, so we're channeling some of that energy. I hope you guys join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. PST for that. So note that it is going to be an hour behind. So 2 p.m. PST, so right about now would be when our interview would be starting with Glenn. DM me your questions so we can compile them and ask them kind of like combined questions and see what we have to say. And then at the end, we'll also do a live Q&A afterwards to see if there's any follow-up questions that we might have for him. But if I were you guys, I would take him by the shoulders and try to shake all the poor knowledge out of him, because that guy has a lot. Just imagine from 2013 until 2020, as a business, how much they're drinking pu'er, all the bad pu'er they've had, all the good pu'er, all the experiences, all the, you know, successes and mistakes, and everyone has those. So much to unlock there. I hope you guys are excited. Yay! I'm really excited. And I really enjoyed the Bulangs today. I can't help but continue this tasting after this live session. I will actually continue the session after this. They're just very compelling teas, very complex, very complicated. So I'm gonna do that after this. I definitely have a little bit more respect for them now. Maybe I've just kind of gotten older in my tea journey and can appreciate more challenging profiles, even if they're not my personal style. You know, yeah, as long as I don't get tea drunk while I'm trying to do it. So thank you for joining us. Sevras Musen and Fantastic Claire and Avi from Thunderhawk, thanks for joining us in the tail end of today's tea practice. We're day 7 now. We've done almost 100 teas, I think, for the Pour Love Challenge. Oh my god, that's crazy! And we'll see you guys tomorrow with an interview with Glenn from Crimson Lotus Tea. Yeah! Finally, some pour experts and not just doing this thing. on the video, which is really dumb. Let's just talk to Glenn and stuff. Bye, guys. Thank you. Also, Discord hangout afterwards tomorrow. Bye.